Hey guys, this is Nikki.
This is Sam.
Welcome back to So What? What's next? Guys, we have a great show planned for you today. Before we get into today's topic, we wanted to definitely thank you and for patronizing the So What What's Next pod. Your love on online, your feedback and text messages, tweets, even in our DMs on Instagram have been nothing but positive. We thank you so much for subscribing. One of the things that Sam and I wanted to definitely share with you guys is that your feedback is monumental to us. And in order for us to be successful, we want to make sure that we give you guys kudos and praise for, jumping on and listening to us talk about things that matter today that you won't care about tomorrow. But while we have you, if you could do us a favor, go ahead to your platform, whether it's Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud. If you could jump on to those platforms and subscribe, rate, leave a review. Also, if you could jump on YouTube and do the same, it's all under the same heading of So What, what's next. We greatly appreciate it. One of the things that's worked for me is when I wake up and have to send the top 5 messages out to my roster, I go ahead and share the link for the So What, What's Next pod. So, I just want to give you a way to kind of start your day off good. If you need to send those good morning text messages to, your top 5, go ahead, share that link, and help us get some more listens out there.
Shouts out to you, Nikki, with the top 5. I mean, 6 doesn't really matter. I like to have somebody on the bench every now and then, but
we all school T-Mobile over here. We got the top 5.
Okay, all right. Well, y'all do that. And when you see the pod on your timeline, just hit the share button. Just hit the share button.
I'm being messy right after Valentine's Day. Imagine that.
I mean, because it went off as planned. When it goes off without a hitch, you could just
we count these W's any way we can, okay?
And then one thing about it, Nikki, when you hit so many in a row, you gotta do a heat check. So what you doing right now is heat check.
That's just a check. I already feel the heat coming in from my cell right now. 5. But let's focus on the positives.
Let's do that.
Speaking of Valentine's Day, Sam, how was the weekend for you?
As you know, I got my second vaccine shot. And for all you naysayers out there, white people got their vaccine shot with me. So I don't think there's a Tuskegee Airman experiment going on. So I did get my vaccine shot. So that kind of left me a little drowsy. I think you checked on me. I think one of those days.
Just one of those days to make sure you was, still with us.
Well, I knew you was busy for Valentine's Day, so I understood.
You know what?
But no, I had a good Valentine's Day. I actually got a gift. Let me grab this gift.
Let's see.
I got a gift for Valentine's Day, as you see.
Oh, fancy!
A little fancy little gravity shaker. You know what I'm saying?
Good.
Yeah. So I had a little gift situation going on there. I was really happy about that. Got a couple of a gift card. I was happy about that also. So moms came through, aunties came through, everybody came through, and made it great. I got my mom something. She was very happy. Well, I sent her from Chance, of course, because I don't like people to think that I'm giving away money and shit. So I don't like to start anything. So.
Right.
If you got something from me, it came from Chance.
There it is. There it is.
What about you? How did the weekend?
It was
how did it unfold?
It was a great weekend. I enjoyed myself thoroughly.
Nikki, I gotta be real with you, right? Because I pay attention to trends, right? And you was very low key on Friday, Saturday, but Sunday you seem free. And I thought to myself,
what were you thinking to yourself? Yourself said, huh?
I thought to myself, as I was laying on my deathbed with my vaccine shot, I said, did Nikki put everybody on a Friday, Saturday itinerary and leave the Sunday open so nobody would think they was number one?
You better know the doll, okay? Know the girl. You better know me, okay?
That's what I thought to myself. I said,
know me.
And I looked to myself and I said, self, that is genius.
You better know me. But I spent some good time with, the offspring. I tried to do some of the same things my parents did on certain holidays. My dad every year would always get me something or take me out or, whatever the case may be. And he didn't let me down this year. Um,
I'm sure Daddy didn't.
Daddy didn't. Daddy or Zaddy. Okay, let me get back on topic. So my biological father, Daddy, did a great job. It was a great weekend. Got to get some rest. Got to actually get out. Even spent some time with friends, and I got a really cute wine bottle. If you were on my social media, you saw what I posted. Um, but it was definitely a good weekend. I got some of the things that were on my wish list, and we just, like I said earlier, we got to count all these dubs when we can. So,
Hey, one thing about me, I don't hate the player, and I don't even hate the game.
The game is the game.
It is the game.
One of the things I was able to do, getting into today's topic, was yesterday when I had some downtime. Like you alluded to, Sam, we were going to review Judas and the Black Messiah. So I got a chance to get 2 spins of that yesterday. So I watched it once, just to kind of watch it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then I watch it for the second time for context. And, for today's show, we want to jump into a couple of different things, such as, our initial thoughts on the movie, some of our favorite scenes, how the characters brought the story to life, and what resonated with us the most, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm gonna kick it over to you. I want to hear some of your thoughts about, the movie, and give me some feedback as to, how you think it was portrayed.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest with everybody here. I did not know a lot about Fred Hampton. I had been meaning to buy his book. I kept forgetting about a book, which I actually have it now. I bought it. It should be coming any day now because I'm going to read it. They told the story through 3 perspectives, which was Fred Hampton, of course, the Judas, which is I don't forget the guy's name. That's how much I didn't
Bill
like
O'Neill.
him. Yeah, Bill O'Neill. I hated Bill O'Neill. And they told it through his wife's story also.
The
So
girlfriend, Deborah Johnson.
Yes. So my initial thoughts was, why is free healthcare, free education is at the very core? Even in Reconstruction, it was the very core of Reconstruction, if you remember, when you go back and read it, how important it was for Black people to create free school, free healthcare at inner slavery. That was like a sticking point. And here is Fred Hampton making this sticking point again. And the thing about that sticking point is it's so universal. It doesn't really touch a color, a creed, or anything. It touches everything. It touches everybody at the same time. But why is it the government has such a problem with that one basic necessity that everybody wants? Why is that the one thing that says, hold up, what the hell is going on here? Why does that make people so angry? Like
The easiest way to kill people is to deny them health care, right?
Right. It really is. And you think about education. I was listening to an interview with Fred Hampton. This guy was telling Fred Hampton he wanted to bring credit unions. He wanted the Black Panthers to invest in credit unions, bring credit unions to the south side of Chicago. This is an interview on YouTube. I should link it to the show. I will try if I can. And Fred Hampton said, what's the point of Black people borrowing money if they don't know what to do with it? And he was telling this guy, he said, it's about education. We don't need to leave an oppressor to go to a Black oppressor, right? So he is preaching this ideal of be educated enough to not create an oppressor. And that message that he was saying in this story just resonated with me. I mean, we're going to get to resonated, but my initial thoughts was, that is such a transcendent topic that's been going on since the end of slavery. And the thing that he hit on that really touched me was he kept saying the word all brothers and sisters, a coalition of people. And I don't know why that's so scary. to everybody. Like I just don't understand that, man. I just that hurt me because you see him bringing these Puerto Ricans, these white people, these black people, these gangs, and you can draw a direct correlation from the violence that stems in Chicago right now to this day, back to the day that Fred Hampton died. Because when you kill a figure that big with that much charisma, that much hope in him, you kill the hope in that community. You kill the hope. You kill any, like, they're basically saying, all you want to allow us to be is criminals. You won't
Right.
allow us to be anything more. And that
You strip people from any type of liberty.
dignity, you take all their dignity away by taking a figure like that, because all he want to do is feed the kids. All he want to do is create education and healthcare. And that's, that was the main point I took from the movie.
Yeah, I agree. So going in, it's always kind of, I would say, iffy, right? When you're going into a movie and you pretty much already know how it's going to end, right? So it's one of those things of, you want to get a good idea of what angle they came from. And I already knew that it wasn't going to be a Fred Hampton biopic because it says Judas in the Black Messiah. It doesn't say the Black Messiah, right?
Right.
And I just love the fact that the casting, right? I feel that the casting, even though they were older than the actual characters and individuals that they were playing,
right.
It's realistic because jokingly we say that, when we look at people from 1960s and 1970s, they all look much older than what they are, right?
Absolutely.
You get a picture of Bill Russell playing, and he literally looks like he's 40 years old, but he's like a 22-year-old out there just, wheeling and dealing. But
doesn't that speak to the ideal that in the Black community that we grow up a lot faster? Like,
yeah, I think that definitely does, play a role in it as well. I have always been, such a fan of the Black Panthers, right? I looked at it through, multiple lenses because growing up with, my grandparents who have seen the colored only fountains and the white only restaurants and things like that, they were very, very clear about teaching me about segregation and post-segregation and different things like that. They went to the all-black high schools. They had the all-black proms, and you just trying to get a job or into the workforce was, strenuous, even with their education. And
right.
Seeing films like this always brings me back to those conversations or those points I've had with my elders. But to the point of the movie, it depicted the time of literally 1 year.
Yeah.
The scope of this movie is only over 1 year.
Yeah.
And I think they did such a good job of layering all the different themes, all the different things that were happening at the time, with sharing, how the government continues to find ways to tear down Black infrastructures and, Black organizations, right? Because
well, let's say this: they find a way to tear down community.
Yeah,
right? They
yeah,
found a way to insert themselves in community and take community away and make themselves the autonomy over what a community should and shouldn't have.
right. It comes back to the dictatorship, right? It comes back to stripping people of things, because if they know their power, they know their worth, if they unify and do these things, then there's not a chance in hell that they're going to be able to survive, right? Because they know that if Black people are able to unify and be able to do these things for themselves, they're going to will understand our true power here, right? So
right.
The whole thing around the movie was protection through survival programs, right? Whether it was jobs, medical care, education, things like that. How to, the meal plan, the meal program was set up basically so kids could have a stomach. Right. I'm sorry. Excuse me. So kids would be able to have something on their stomachs, so they're not in school worrying about being hungry or worrying about having to leave school in order to find a way to steal it or to, find money to even to have something.
Right. Because when you take hunger away from somebody, then you take desperation away from them.
Right. The
You know
same
what I'm saying?
thing
So that's important.
Right,
to
like the
make that
universal
distinction.
income, right? Like the
Right.
universal income. People are relieved. There's a lot of stress that could be left off of off of your plate and in your life if they getting an extra $1,000 a month, right? If I know I got a guaranteed X amount of dollars coming in every month, I'm able to move a little different. But we'll get back to that. But
Yeah.
I think they started off with the footage from Eyes on the Prize 2 with Bill O'Neill basically saying, "Hey, you could see the hesitation in his face." And as they go on to tell the story, where he was posing as an officer in order to steal cars. And, there's so many people who have been in that same situation, right? He was, I think, 17 or 19 years old when he was actually, asked to be the informant. Well, not asked, I guess, basically backed into a corner to be the informant. And, at that age, it's like 5 years you're thinking of, it's going to be forever. So you take the lesser evil in your mind, right? And
Right.
the one thing that Bill O'Neill did was he saw himself in that FBI agent, right? Because remember, he was admiring him. He was like, how much money do you make? And you drink like this and eat like this all the time, like
So
seeing
so
his
let's
house.
let's get to that, because I'm sorry I cut you off, but I want to talk about that, because what that person is a coon. And I'm not saying that to be like derogatory. No, I'm really not trying to say that to be derogatory, because in the Black community, what we have a lot of times is coons. It's a lot of coons. And there's very simple characteristics of coons. These, like, coons really believe that the only way that you can obtain wealth or any type of money or any type of status is from a white person.
Yeah.
They believe this. And they also believe that it only can be limited to a finite amount of Black people, right? Like, if I get the money from a white person, then can't nobody else get the money either, right? Because if they give me the money, they give it to somebody else, they mean I can't get none either. So, and that's what Lakeith Stanfield did a great job portraying this, because he's very hesitant about what he's doing. Like, he know it's wrong, but he's like, well, shit, I mean, I'm gonna get mines though.
Right.
I'm gonna get mines.
Right,
And
to the point where he even made it more profitable, right? Like,
right.
if I get you more information, you're going to pay me more, right? Or
But you
you're
know
going
what's crazy is the Black Panthers was getting money from banks. They was getting money from restaurants. They was getting food from other places. Like, Fred Hampton was opening up doors for them all across Chicago. So why did he not believe that he could go to Fred to get the things that he
Well, they
felt?
didn't have a pre-existing relationship, right? He only
Right.
came into the fold because he was forced to, right? So it's
But who
like
was he in the first scene, though? Who was he taking from? Who was he stealing from?
he was stealing from Black people, right? Because he was still in the car, right?
Right. So he show you in that first scene that they don't deserve this. I deserve this. They're so dumb, I can take it from them. And this is how most coons think. They think they can outsmart the other Black person. And I'm gonna tell you something, and this is just me being as honest as I can be. I tell Black people this shit all the time. I can accept the fact that white people have race ignorance, but what I cannot accept is you telling me what they do is okay and that you're going to circumvent your own people to get to the top. That bothers me in a very tough way. And I thought they did a great job portraying it. I really did. Because I think if you watch that over and over and over again, you'll see that person's at your job. That person's in your family. You know what I'm saying? That person exists. And that dude is not some villain. And I'm glad he's dead, because that person exists. He exists in everyday walk of life.
Yeah, I don't wish death on anybody. I get what you're saying. Like, I'm not oblivious to it. I'm just saying, and it's hurtful. And I think that his death, his suicide, was most, in my assumption, would be due to a lot of the things he had to confront when he did that documentary, right? For him to commit suicide the same day it was released on PBS, like, that tells me a lot, that guilt was weighing on him for years, right?
Well, you know what it was, though. You realize that at the end of the day, guess who he wasn't? He wasn't an FBI agent.
Right.
At the end of the day, you know who you was? You was nothing.
No, you served your purpose, right?
Yeah, you served your purpose, and nobody cares about you. And that's that. And now you're trying to free your soul of what you've done because you set Chicago back centuries. You set them back decades. Like that place is in, and I don't think Chicago's in ruins. But
No,
the
I
portrayal,
go often. Chicago's still a beautiful city.
right? But the portrayal of Chicago is they portray it as like it's in ruins,
Yeah.
and it's not right that they do that. But yeah, let's man, this is gonna be a long conversation.
So I think we'll be able to still hit our parameters, and I'll still give you some time left to your evening. But ultimately the timeline is this movie is just spanning over one year, maybe let's call it 18 months even, right?
Right.
Because in November of 1968, Fred Hampton actually joined the Black Panther Party, the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party. And just to provide some additional context, in February of 1965, Malcolm X was assassinated. In April of 1968, Martin Luther King was assassinated. And at that point, that's where I believe you shared this nugget as well, where Fred Hampton transitioned from the NAACP and transitioned to the Black Panther Party, and started, being able to see where he would be able to make more of an impact, even if it was considered radical. At the same time, years before Fred Hampton even became...
That is crazy, though, that a radical conversation is free healthcare and free education.
Yeah, socialism, right?
Right. That's crazy.
So during this time, the FBI ran by J. Edgar Hoover, played by Martin Sheen in the movie, was running COINTELPRO, which is the counterintelligence program that surveilled Black leaders, Black organizations, which basically was established to dismantle any type of organization from or being united from the Black race front, right?
Oh, let me I want to stop you real quick. I'm sorry. So J. Edgar Hoover grew up in America at a time where America was creating a lot of factions within it. Okay. Now, do I believe he did not like Black people? Yes, I do believe that. But at the time that he was coming up in America, there was lots of fractions like Italian mafias, Irish mafias. He didn't believe in the idea that there was a force that should be bigger than the presidents of the United States. That was J. Edgar Hoover. That's what he believed in. And he did a lot of deporting people. He deported a lot of people, like women rights activists. He deported them out of the country. J. Edgar Hoover got rid of a lot of, like, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think if J. Edgar Hoover was alive today, Donald Trump would have been out of the country. Like, I really do believe that. Like, just point blank period. He'd end up, something to happen. But J. Edgar Hoover he only believed in one voice that got behind one USA, Go USA banner. And that was him to the core. The rise of a Black Messiah, I think, honestly scared the living shit out of him.
well, it did, right? Because that's why they had to do all the surveillance on, Elijah Muhammad, on Malcolm X, on Martin Luther King, and, the different civil rights leaders that were prominent during that time were under major surveillance, right? So his whole goal was, how do I rid the rise of a Messiah, right? And if you think about it, he literally said, we cannot afford the rise of a Black Messiah, because he felt like, oh my God, we got rid of two and we got to do this again.
Right.
Right. And part of COINTELPRO, there were incentives, right? So if you were to have some of the Black leaders arrested, you got incentives. Of course, these things are off record. Even if you killed them, there were bounties on different leaders' heads. So, there was incentive for the FBI to carry out, these different things that J. Edgar Hoover was putting out there. So I just think that in the run of a year, they were able to cover so much of the context of this. And, shout out to Dominique Fishback. She's my parents' goddaughter, and she was also starring next to Jamie Foxx in that movie Power that was released on Netflix earlier this year.
Yeah. She said she actually filmed both of those at the same time.
She did retakes for Power. Within a month, she was going back and forth between Power and the Black Messiah, Judas and the Black Messiah. So, she was able to channel both of these characters really, really well. But the thing that really captivated me was or resonated with me the most is that this young man at 20, 21 years old, the depths of who he was as a human and as a person, and understanding, what he wanted to accomplish and what he wanted to do for Black people, and understanding that the cause was greater than him. The benefits to Black people were more than, just on, excuse me, more than just even his life.
Mm-hmm.
He was willing to die for it, right? He was willing to die for the cause, and he did not hold back. He knew his rights. He knew what his authority was, and he was not scared to stand in that, even in Chicago, going up against other racists and going up against the gangs and trying to unite them in an effort to advance the community. At that time was one of the most dangerous things that he could have done, and because he believed so much in the power of the Black Panther Party, he just forged ahead and was willing to do that. I think another thing that the movie, another part that resonates with me, is that outside of the depth of what Fred Hampton what was trying to accomplish, um, seeing the brutal violence,
Yeah.
the brutal abuse,
Mm-hmm.
because you hear about it, you see the black and whites, you see the old historic footage of,
Mm-hmm.
Black people being beat and clubbed and things like that. I don't think we really understand the magnitude of how people were burned, and people were,
Yeah.
literally beat to a pulp. And there was a lot of that happening, and for people to survive that, I only think of how that impacts them physically,
Yeah.
mentally, to get up every day and to know that this may be the day you may die, because you're trying to fight for the freedoms of your people, you're trying to fight for
Yeah.
your community, you want a place to live, you want a place to work, you just want to feed your family, and you want to be able to do that without being excuse me, marginalized, or you want to do that without being persecuted because you were born, African American, you were born Black. And just watching the movie, there's so many ranges of emotions, because
Yeah.
you're like, wow, this is so powerful. And, what if we could, mobilize and organize and do this now? And then you see the physical violence, and then it takes you back to, all the names that we've spoken over the last years of police violence, of killing,
Right.
unarmed Black people. And the same things that were happening years and years ago, as we mentioned on our show, is continuing to happen in present day. And
Mm-hmm.
you're watching the movie, and it's just like, you just really, you hurt, you get angry, you get upset, and then to realize that you're fighting against, the oppressor, and you're also fighting against your own people.
Right.
Right.
And that's the trick, right? Like my granddad told me that when he was growing up, my great grandma, his grandma, had a juke joint. She ran a juke joint where she ran numbers and sold illegal alcohol. And he said he got arrested. He said in his lifetime, he said he probably been arrested 40, 50 times, I think he told me. So it was nothing to be randomly picked up on a Friday, beat up, and thrown into a jail cell until like Monday.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this is like this is like his life from 12 years old to 25.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
he would tell you these stories, and you would be like, "Granted, that's crazy. Like, those are crazy." But when you
Yeah,
watch
I mean, my,
these,
my pops would tell me stories about, how they had to consistently change their route walking home from school,
yeah,
right? You live in a Black neighborhood, you go to a Black high school, right? All Black high school,
mhm.
right? And you're just trying to walk home, and you have to think of different ways to walk home to avoid running into police,
And
right?
they had to move in groups. They had to move
Right. You
in
could There
groups.
was nobody walking by themselves, right? Nobody was
Yeah,
allowed to be alone. And if they played sports, the whole community showed up, right? So
yeah,
they have my pops told me that they had bulletin boards, in the neighborhood, where you would literally be able to go by and see the schedule for any sport that was happening, so that way they could come out in numbers, and not have to worry about any issues, right? They felt protected, that sense of community, right?
right.
Same thing that the Panthers were trying to provide in the different chapters um over the country. But I say that overall the movie, is good. I enjoyed it. I felt like Daniel Kulaya. He did a great job of embodying Fred Hampton because that Louisiana Creole accent, no matter where you at, is going to come out.
Man,
Him being a Black Brit and being able to even carry the tone, the cadence, the body language, everything of Fred Hampton. He did a great job.
man, that speech he gave, man, that when he came back from
From
jail.
jail.
Oh
Mhm.
my God. That
Yeah,
speech, I got goosebumps watching that. I got
yeah.
goosebumps, and I rewatched it again though when to actually listen to Fred Hampton say the speech. And I'm not gonna say their cadence was the same, but it wasn't very far off. Their cadence wasn't very far off. So he killed that. I mean, he killed it. And the way they showed him when he got out of jail as his larger than life figure, it was like the way they filmed that, him walking up the stairs, that cinematography was amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah, not one aside. I do love the lighting. Whenever I see Black people in good lighting, I
Yeah,
love it. That's one of the things I love about having Black writers, right?
yeah,
Black cinematographers, Black screenwriters. I love having people who do, Black hair, Black makeup, Black light, just the sets, right? They know
right.
how to make sure that Black people look normal,
Yeah.
right? And in
And
the best light. They're not, heavy on the dark makeup just because they're Black, right? The neck matches the face, as us
yeah,
say,
yeah.
right?
And
Um,
that scene, when you watch that scene, we'll get to this part, but when you watch that scene, you notice his wife, his girlfriend, in that scene, she drops a couple tears, right? Because in that moment, she realizes something that nobody else will see. They're welcoming him home, but she knows his fate in that scene. She sees his fate in that scene, and you see the teardrop. And later in that movie, you see that she doesn't cry at all
yeah, it
because
was
she
expected.
already knew where he was going after that scene. And I thought they did. I thought Dominique Fishback did a excellent job. So let's get to the next one. That
No,
was
go ahead. Just go ahead to the speech part.
well, no, I was my favorite scene in the whole. And my favorite scene actually is, and it made me, it resonated with me as far as a Black man, was when he asked her, "Why are you afraid of being a mother?" When he's reading her poetry, he's reading her writings, and she comes in, and this is something that I think as men, as Black men, as men, as we try to redefine our roles within the hierarchy of these gender roles and all these things, that if we want women to if we want to be leaders in our households and leaders as men, we have to give people a reason to follow us. And in that scene, he asked her a question, and before he could basically, before he could put down what she was about to say, he listened to her, he heard her. And she told him, she said, "You talking about dying when I have a baby in me? You talking about doing this for the people? Well, these are my fears." And I thought that scene really resonated because every scene they had together was so intimate
Yeah,
that you would miss it if you didn't pay attention to it. And as men, we have to find something that a woman can believe in, that our families can believe in, and that can get people to follow us. A lot of times we want people to bow to something, but we have nothing to make them bow to. We have nothing to make them follow. And even though he's this galvanizing figure, you realize that he respected her in a way to give her all the space in the world to share her thoughts, her feelings, her concerns with him. And she also helped him become a better speaker. So I thought every scene with Dominique Fishback and Daniel was awesome. It was awesome.
yeah. Just the charismatic of Fred Hampton, the charisma of
Yeah.
Fred Hampton, right? I think was portrayed in the movie. They showed him as the revolutionary, right? The
Hmm.
the engaged speaker, and then they showed him as the partner, right, to his girlfriend, and not even knowing she was pregnant, right?
Yeah.
To the point of where he just had the gift of speaking life into people and getting, there being some unity, right? Even where he opened up I think the scene where, Bill O'Neill is actually in the orientation, and they're having the discussions, and Bill's trying to holler at the girl, and Fred's like, hey, we respect the Black women in here. We don't,
Right.
we don't interact in that way here, right?
Right.
We're here for the mission and for the purpose and for the cause, and basically that's what my parents like to call the rebuke, right?
Yeah.
That rebuke is to get that fear out of you, right? So if you've been called out on the spot of doing something where it's not aligning with the purpose, right? There's some type of discipline that comes with it, so
But the idea that you cannot hate the oppressor and then become an oppressee. You can't be oppressing people if you hate the oppressor. Like, you can't have it both ways. I know me and you discussed this, but that was something that I thought came through also as he was talking to Bill O'Neill in that scene. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. I think they did a good job of just capturing the whole, I hate to say it, but they capture the short lifespan, or that certain part of Fred
It's
Hampton's life
crazy that he was only
away because
21 with that much forethought, right? That's insane to
yeah,
think
because
that.
you got to understand there's movements happening all over, because this is happening at the same time as the trial of the Chicago Seven, right?
Mhm.
So that's where, Bobby Seale and a couple of the other liberals are all involved. And quietly in that Chicago Seven case, Bobby Seale had nothing to do with it, right? They just routed him in on some trumped up charges, again, that the FBI found out, or the FBI created,
Yeah.
in order to try to pin the deaths of that particular protest on to Bobby and to those gentlemen. And if you haven't seen it, please go check it out. It's on Netflix. It's called The Chicago Seven. Really good movie. But long story short, they're intertwining all these different things that are happening all over the country, right? For Black people,
America,
mention
America
of those
is
things, and as they're making mention of those things, you can
yeah,
kind of tie in how all of this is even impacting every chapter of the Black Panther Party, even if it's not in Chicago.
yeah. I mean, like, the American experiment is happening, and America is teetering at this point in time. And it's crazy to think about that, because that's just 1968. That's not that long ago.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I always tell people, like, we can get this figured out because we're a young country. We can get all this figured out. It's not that crazy.
Right, right. So to bring it home, Fred Hampton is assassinated, murdered in his home. I think the most gruesome death of a Black leader and activist. I know that Malcolm was shot in the mosque. I know that Martin Luther King was gunned down on the balcony and things like that. But the amount of bullets that were sprayed into their home, it kind of just sent me right to Breonna Taylor, right? Like
Mhm.
all the gunshots that were shot into her apartment by those police officers. It just those two things just happened in my mind at the same time, whereas they said that there were over 100 bullets and they were only able to trace one bullet from one of the members of the Black Panther Party who was there, who was home.
Right.
And that was just sad. It was pathetic. It was totally
Cowardly.
just malicious, just asinine. I mean, just I can't find enough words to describe what the government did in order to keep the power that they have, to in order to advance their own crazy mindset of excuse me, of white power and white supremacy. They were willing to take a father, a son, from a leader,
A
from
leader.
their
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
I always say parents shouldn't have to bury their children.
Mhm.
So for his mom to have to bury him, for him to not even be able to meet or know his son, just different things, because it makes you think of where we could have been had he lived. But
I mean,
I,
I mean, like we said,
I'll summarize it from my point. I
yeah,
enjoyed the movie thoroughly. I feel that they covered a lot in that one year.
yeah,
um,
Yeah.
And I would definitely watch it for a third or fourth time.
I mean, it's gonna be on my list to watch, especially during Black History Month. I'll be watching that the 13th. When They See Us, it goes on the list with
Yeah, I
those.
can't watch When They See Us again. I can't.
I my son will watch When They See Us. Like that's gonna happen. Like he will watch it every year. I mean, because the just these structures and these man, I tell you, man, it's crazy, man. As we watch the world as it is like as it's happening around us, man, it's insane. Like you think like, damn, dude. I always think to myself like, damn, I'm so lucky. Like
Right.
'cause these situations are not that far away from you. Like they're not, they're
You're
around the
not that
corner.
far removed.
Yeah, you're not that far removed, and this is all possible, man. This stuff is all possible. It all can happen to you, and you're just lucky that you wasn't involved in that, you know. And the Black Panther Party and Fred Hampton, Huey P. Newton, these figures, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, you know, instead of it makes you think like, do we value community enough? And I see why we don't, because they've taught us that when we do, they destroy it. Because I mean, you look at what Nipsey Hussle was doing, you know, and I'm not saying the government killed Nipsey Hussle. I don't know that. That's a conspiracy. I don't know. But it just feels weird because you see somebody that's creating this cash flow within a community, a ghetto, so-called ghetto. He's filming all his videos in this so-called ghetto. He's employing all these ex-cons, employing all these people from his community. And why would he die? Like that, it makes no sense to you. It makes no sense, you know. And it's just one of those things where you wonder in your community, like how much can you do in your community that doesn't involve the government, and how long can it last? You know, and it's just it's a sad thing, man. It's very sad, you know, because I think community should be at the forefront of what we do in this country. I don't think it should be in the back. I don't think we should be asking the government for stimulus checks and ask the government for, you know, I see guys like Big Gang James and Rob DeLoach, the things they're doing in their community. Look at the black coaches and Pop Warner coaches on the sidelines in these communities. And that is a big part of what gets, I mean, it's a big part of why I'm sitting here, why I'm sitting here right now. You know, I mean, I don't have a black Pop Warner coach, David Jones or Eric Andrews. I don't know where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know where I'm sitting at right now. So it's crazy, man. It's crazy. It's really insane.
So for the what's next portion of the show, we got a glimpse into Judas and the Black Messiah, which lended more the story towards Judas, Bill O'Neill. But it gave us a good idea of how Fred Hampton operated and who he was. So what's next? Who's the next biopic we want to see? What's the next, black figure that we want to learn more about, that we want to get a better understanding of? Who do we want to see on the screen next?
Oh man, give me an Angela Davis bio. Give me an Angela Davis bio. I want it while she's still alive. I told somebody Angela Davis was still alive. They didn't even believe me. They had to go look it up. They're like, "You're lying." I'm like, "I swear to
They had
God,
to
she's
do the
still alive."
Google.
Yeah, I'm like, "She's still alive." I swear to God, she's at a protest.
Green light, green light, please.
So give me Angela Davis. Give me Bobby Rush, the guy that was with Fred Hampton. I think in the movie he had afro. He was like the guy like I gotta go home, but he actually became a gosh man, what did I got it? I got it right here. Hello. He actually became a U.S. House of Representative from 93 to from 1983 to 93. So give me that. Give me those two biopics.
Yeah, I will say I loved Good Trouble.
That
That
was
was a
good.
good one. A new one with John Lewis. The new one, if I had to get a new one out there, one of my favorite figures is Nikki Giovanni. I've been a huge Nikki Giovanni fan since high school. She was one of the reasons why I even started writing, why I love journaling. Why I even tried my hand at poetry, which was not one of my things, but um, she gave me the courage to at least try it. I would love to hear her stories and her interactions with H. Rap Brown and their son and how she was able to still be vibrant and go through the struggle. And then even in her years being a professor at Virginia Tech, would love to hear how she managed her African American studies class and things like that. I would also love to uh, so Langston Hughes, right? I would like to see a modern day biopic of Langston Hughes. I mean, entailing everything from Harlem Renaissance to speech writing to, everything he was involved in or touched. I would love to learn, more about him as a person and not leaving out certain parts, right? Because I think there are certain things that people didn't want to know about or put out there about Langston Hughes because he was such a pivotal figure during that time. But I would love to hear, more about his prominence. I would, um, um, I'm going to call him an activist because of the way he was able to get the message out. But, I would love to hear or, see a biopic in the works for Stevie Wonder. And some of the things that he's been able to do as he made the soundtrack to a lot of things that were going on during the struggle, right? For a blind man who can't actually see these things, but to actually experience, racism. I would like to see just how Jamie Foxx did Ray. Would love to see someone do the same thing with Stevie Wonder's story and give us some color and feedback to, his life.
Jamie killed Ray. I think Frederick Douglass would be a good one also. But I want a relationship. I want the biopic to end right before the Civil War ends, though. I don't want it to be into the Civil War. I want it to end before the Civil War ends. Like I want to see Frederick Douglass be the chess master that he was as far as getting black soldiers to fight, his relationship with Abraham Lincoln. But I want the real relationship. I want the real relationship. I would love to see a Frederick Douglass biopic. I thought they didn't do enough with Harriet Tubman for some reason. I was like, I really wanted more.
I don't want a whitewashed film.
Right, and that's kind of hard because when you add Abraham Lincoln to Frederick Douglass, they're gonna whitewash it. So it's
definitely gonna have revisionist history there. Right. One thing I can do without for a little while is slave movies. I don't want to see anything from a slavery standpoint. I don't want to see, anything. I want to see movies where we get to understand, anything right around board v education. Let's go from there forward, right? Because I don't want to see, slavery movies just do something to me.
Well, I can tell you one thing. I don't watch, like, I haven't even watched 12 Years a Slave. I haven't watched it. I told my mom I can't do it. I just can't.
Yeah, I will say that if and when you do, just make sure you do it where, you won't be seeing the Pilgrims for a couple of days. Space it out a little bit. But so with that being said, Sam, I know we kind of walked through some things about the Judas and the Black Messiah and what we want to see next. Anything else you want to share before we out of here?
No, man. I encourage, if you haven't watched it, I encourage you to go watch it. I encourage you to read and research on these black figures that that existed, that we didn't learn about in high school and middle school. I encourage you to learn about these figures, man. And shouts out to Daniel and Lakeith Stanfield and Ryan Coogler. And even though I know we hate Jesse Plemons because he's always the white guy that's always problematic to black people in films.
He plays the role too well, man.
He plays it too well, but hey, shouts out to him because somebody got to do it.
Yeah. Same here. Please watch the movie. I am one of those people that I will always support Black content creators, and no matter what medium it's on, I will give it a couple of streams because, you know, we always say representation matters, so we have to watch it whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. So next week, we'll jump into some topics. You know, we are halfway through Black History Month, a little bit over halfway through February. So next week, we're gonna kind of, you know, jump into some Black history moments and, you know, cover some other things that we care about today and most likely won't matter tomorrow. But again, can you do us a favor? Hit that subscribe button. Go ahead, leave us a review. When you send out your good morning text in the morning tomorrow, just please remember to include our link and tell them to listen to the pod. Should brighten up their day and yours as well. But yeah, we out of here.
Because Nick is giving free game. Yo.
Bye.